Let's let's try. All right, how about what do you guys see? Oh, now I'm on the no, I don't like this at all. But I can move myself here. Like I'm the no, that's nothing. We're not gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna do it this way instead. So, hello all. Welcome to mini lecture 1.1. My name is Emilio, and just before we start, because this is the first mini lecture that you are going to have, I just want to I just want to make a suggestion that when you watch these videos, do them in a place that's comfortable for you. Really have fun with it because this is going to be the medium for this module. So each week for the 12 weeks that you're with us, you're going to have to watch these mini lectures, watch some pre-recorded videos. In these pre-recorded videos, there's going to be the theories, the concepts, the kind of nitty-gritty of the things we're talking about each week. Excuse me. And then we're going to take that and practice that together in class. But for me, you'll see in the videos, because you'll see me in a bit more. For those of you who have me and in-person tutorials, you'll know that I like to take things, try to make it fun. We can learn without being overly rigid. We can learn in new ways. So when you watch the videos, watch them on the go, watch them in a park, watch them in a coffee shop, watch them with your friends. Whatever you have to do to make it fun, make it a bit entertaining so that you don't feel like it's a chore. You feel like it's something it's interesting, it will help you. It's from my view one of the best ways to learn. So I just wanted to start off by saying make this module fun. Make it entertaining because ultimately the purpose of this module is to be very practical. And part of that practicality means really developing the skills to be able to, if you want, start your own businesses. Everyone has the capacity to be an entrepreneur, and that's something that we're really trying to inculcate in this module. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. So again, welcome to mini lecture 1.1. So today we're going to talk about the concepts of entrepreneurship and innovation and how understanding these concepts form the basis of international entrepreneurship. Now, to do this, we're going to go into a bit of history about entrepreneurship as a general field of inquiry, and then we're going to build from there. But I kind of touched on the kind of housekeeping before. I really think, as I said, make it fun, make it entertaining, try to look at things from a different perspective because that's the key of this module. But also, you will have access to these videos on YouTube, and there's the YouTube link there, but you'll also be able to access it through the Moodle. These slides and also the videos themselves will also be available on Moodle, but in case you're interested, they are available to you on YouTube. I know some people prefer YouTube as the more kind of desirable medium, so just wanted to leave that there. So let's jump into some history. So the practice of entrepreneurship has been around since the beginning of trade, but we can trace the concept of entrepreneurship back to Adam Smith in 1776, often considered the father of modern economics. And though he didn't actually use the term entrepreneur, we can surmise through his work that the entrepreneur is one who transforms demand into supply. So they find a way to meet a demand for X, and in filling this demand, they themselves make a profit. So then in 1803, the French economist Jean-Baptiste Say, to whom the word entrepreneur is actually credited, suggested that the entrepreneur is one who moves resources from an area of lower yield to an area of higher yield. So in other words, they shift from lower productivity to higher productivity. Now, from this perspective, entrepreneurs are those who utilize what they have in a more efficient way to create a product or to create a service, and as a consequence, make profits. Then in 1848, John Stuart Mill, who some argue was the most influential philosopher of the 19th century and the father of utilitarianism, suggested that entrepreneurs are the fourth factor of production. So, in addition to labor, land, and capital, we also have entrepreneurs and are therefore instrumental to keeping the economy moving. Now, from his perspective, from Mill's perspective, risk taking and the capacity for organization are fundamental characteristics of the entrepreneur. Now, in 1919, the Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter introduced this concept of creative destruction, which refers to the ways in which progress and innovation break down the old and replace it with something new. So, if we take listening to music as an example, first we had the 8-track tape player, then we had the CD player, then we had the MP3 player, and then we had the iPod with all of its kind of different variations, right? So we can see how the old is starting to be supplanted by a newer way of doing things. If we take another practical example, here we can see the inverse relationship between Netflix and Blockbuster in terms of sales as the world moves towards a new means of watching TV. So streaming rather than ordering something or getting it from a store, which means the old method of renting physical DVDs or tapes begins to fade. And it's this cyclical nature by which innovation supplants that old thing that is captured within this concept of creative destruction. Now, from this Schumpeterian perspective, entrepreneurs are first and foremost innovators who move the economy forward by their innovative activity, which begins this process of creative destruction. Now, here, innovation forms the central tenet of entrepreneurship, and it's this innovation theory of entrepreneurship that forms our current understanding of entrepreneurship today. So, to be an entrepreneur, one must be an innovator, and innovation is vital for entrepreneurship. Now, Schumpeter introduced a relatively vague notion of innovation as doing things differently in the realm of economic life. But what does this really mean? Well, in essence, this definition of an entrepreneur is someone who engages in entrepreneurship. So businesses can also act entrepreneurially, but we'll touch on that later in the course. But that's a bit of a tautological definition, right? An entrepreneur is someone who acts entrepreneurially. So what gives? Well, entrepreneurship means making things happen in an innovative way. So there's two pieces to this entrepreneurship question. We have the making things happen, and then we have the innovation side. So entrepreneurs, therefore, are those people who take action and take this action innovatively. Now, remember that innovation can be boiled down to doing something new, but we're going to get back to that in a bit. So just stay with me. Now, when we think of entrepreneurs, we tend to think of the Richard Bransons, we tend to think of the Jeff Bezoses, we tend to think of the Cher Wangs, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Elon Musks, or the Denise Coates. But actually, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, there's over 400 million entrepreneurs globally who also make things happen. They do it in an innovative way, but they don't get this same attention. So when we talk about making things happen in the context of entrepreneurship, we can think of the entrepreneurial process. So kind of like this, the from idea to growth. Now, growth can also mean scaling. So whether growth or scaling is having two shops, 200 across the globe, or going from 10 customers to 100,000 customers, this is what we kind of think of as growth. Now, as you can see on the screen, this is what the process generally looks like. You know, we go from idea generation linearly down to this growth or scaling. Now, as you might imagine, the process isn't actually this linear, right? It tends to be very iterative and it tends to look like this kind of back and forth, trial and error. Similarly, as you might imagine, the process and where we go within these iterations is strongly, strongly influenced by the individual entrepreneur. Therefore, it can be an extremely windy road contingent on whoever that person is, right? So while we present it as this linear process, it is not that simple. In addition, there's all of these various elements that are within an entrepreneur's toolkit that influences how they operate. So, entrepreneurs have an idea and they work to make it happen. They use their human capital, they use what they know, they use the emotional support available to them, the expert knowledge available to them, and who they can interact with. Because despite the hero narrative that shines a light on the Bezoses and the Musks and the Coates of the world, you can't be an expert at everything. The people, the partners that you surround yourself with are important. Your networks, ideas and feedback, the types of funding that you pursue, all of these play a very important role in how this process begins to manifest. And we're going to explore all of them throughout this course, but for now, we can leave it like this. So, while these entrepreneurial traits that you see on the screen are often what we tend to see in entrepreneurial individuals, they most certainly do not make or break a person's entrepreneurial capacity. So, any combination of these traits allow people to be innovative. So, as the second half of the entrepreneurship question, come on, what is innovation? So, coming back to the Schumpeterian theory of innovation, did the quote pop up? Yeah, and this quote, innovation refers to the recombination of existing elements. Now, ultimately, innovation emerges as a way by which entrepreneurs may gain a competitive advantage. Now, remember that a competitive advantage refers to some leverage that a business has over its competitors. Now, whether that's lower cost, more efficient processes, any way by which a business can provide its customer with higher value and thereby generate more sales than their competitor. Now, value can be contingent on context, and so can innovation. Now, innovation can be incremental or it can be radical. Come on, show up. Could be incremental or it could be radical. It can be, come on, it can be new to a firm or it can be new to the world. So it could be new to a firm or new to a region, or it can be new to the entire world, or it can be sustaining or it can be disruptive. Now, come on now. Now, innovation is not necessarily invention, and inventors are not necessarily entrepreneurs. Now, there is a strong correlation. A lot of people who invent things become entrepreneurs. They go on to kind of monetize that thing that they've invented. But being innovative and an entrepreneur does not mean you have to invent something. And just because you are an inventor and you invent something doesn't necessarily mean you are an entrepreneur. And I just want to take a moment on that point because you will have to come up with a venture for one of your assessments and you will have to discuss how the venture is viable. Please, please, please do not get caught up in the belief that you have to invent something new. You don't. You really don't. But you do have to create a sort of new type of value. Now, innovation is often a process that's denoted through this S curve, where there can be a significant time lag between the inception of a given innovation and the general acceptance and wider use of the innovation. Now, within this process, it's often the aha moment that gets the focus. Excuse me. And within the context of an invention, we might think of the aha moment as the point where everything comes together and the invention begins to work. But in reality, this process is one of trial and error, where we can begin to tweak aspects of lived experiences and provide services or solutions to various problems. So, one way to think about it is that inventions are one manifestation, usually a physical manifestation, of innovation, but they're certainly not the end of innovation. So remember, going forward, and I'll say it again ad nauseum, you'll probably get very annoyed by me, but remember that people usually don't buy products or services. They buy solutions to the challenges that they face. And these solutions tend to manifest in a product or in a service. Now, if we take the mobile phone as an example, the mobile phone as an invention allowed people to stay in contact and make phone calls on the move. So we can, if I just go back here, actually, you can kind of look at each of these stages. So I invite you to pause the picture here and potentially look at each of these stages and how you think it might relate to the phone. So, um, the phone was an invention that allowed people to stay in contact and make phone calls on the move. And it revolutionized the way we work and the way we socialize. So if we draw back to this notion of creative destruction, we don't see many landline phones anymore, right? If any. But mobile phones can also act as what is called grasshopper technologies in developmental economics. We can term this grasshopper technologies. Now, this is not to be confused with the company grasshopper technologies. The concept of grasshopper technologies in developmental economics refers to those technologies which can be used to leap over a challenge that we might otherwise have more trouble dealing with. So, to give a practical example, in the modern economy, banks play a very important role for lending or storing money, and they often play key roles as intermediaries between people, between businesses, and between governments. Now, in London, as an example, we can walk to a bank and we can deal with whatever we have to deal with there in that bank. But what if you live in a rural village in Brazil or India, Cote d'Ivoire, or Egypt, right? It becomes not so easy, potentially doable, but not as easy. So what do? Well, prior to the invention of the mobile phone and wireless connection that ensures such access to banks, in order to ensure that access, it might require having to fix roads or acquiring vehicles, so rather costly solutions. However, mobile banking presents a cost-effective solution by offering the ability to bank wherever you are. Now, mobile banking emerges as a solution to the challenges of distance in those contexts. Now, in London, we use mobile banking here. I use it. I'm sure you use it, and we use it so we can send money to friends or family. We don't have to walk to the bank. So for us in this context, it's a nice incrementally innovative solution to the inconvenience of physically going to the bank. But for those in rural areas who don't have access to what they might need to be able to travel these long distances to get to a bank, this represents a radical innovation of the banking system and then begins to revolutionize their ability to work or manage money. Now, in terms of the kind of the time lag, in order for this innovation, in this case mobile banking, to really reach a critical mass of individuals and make the widespread change it needs to make, there's a bit of time. This is what we think of when we talk about the time lag between the innovation and then the innovation fully being able to kind of, you know, reach its maximum impact. So, innovation manifests in very different ways. And as we said, entrepreneurs are those that take action to bring about change through these various innovative means. And therefore, entrepreneurship is the practice by which action and innovation come together to create various opportunities for change. And they are not limited to strictly economic pursuits. So, we have social entrepreneurship, for example, which refers to entrepreneurial behavior whereby social improvement is the end goal rather than the profit motive. We have ecopreneurship, and ecopreneurship refers to those entrepreneurial endeavors that are based on environmental sustainability as an end goal. We have intrapreneurship, and intrapreneurship refers to entrepreneurial endeavors within an existing institution. And then we have international entrepreneurship. And international entrepreneurship, which we will discuss quite a bit in this module, international entrepreneurship refers to entrepreneurial behavior across borders. Now, we will discuss each of these areas and the nuanced differentiations between them as the course progresses. But for now, it's just important for us to know that each of these areas constitute various ways in which innovation is leveraged to, to engage in meaningful action. So as you begin to consider your venture in preparation for your assignment, remember that you're not limited to any kind of venture, and you can find innovation in a bunch of different ways, and you can be a social entrepreneur, an ecopreneur, engage in intrapreneurship. In week 4, when we discuss social entrepreneurship, we will also briefly touch on political entrepreneurship. So just remember, when you work on your assignment, you are not limited to the type of venture that you can create. The purpose of the assessment is that you just have to be clear in terms of the innovativeness of that venture and how that innovativeness of the venture, one, makes you a profit, two, keeps you competitive, and three, enables you to internationalize and cross borders. So I hope that made sense. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next mini lecture and also in person. Bye bye.